start. Good morning to everyone in Charlotte once again, and good afternoon to everyone joining us in Krefeld. After meeting with all of the youth since, I guess, early September, I'm both happy that we're getting together for this final meeting between Krefeld and Charlotte, but I'm also a little bit sad that the program is coming to the end. But I'm hoping that following our conversation here with the mayors, that we're going to have an opportunity to brainstorm and discuss how we can keep the conversations going into the future. Again, I would ask that everybody keep your videos on, but turn off your audio for the beginning portion of the conversation. We will get to a Q&A session, a question and answer session, which is really the main focus of our conversation today with the mayors. And at that point, if you have a question, you can use the Zoom function to raise your hand and I will call on you. And you can ask a question of either mayor or both mayors, as you please. I'm really pleased that we have Mayor Pro Tem Julie Eiselt from Charlotte and Oberbürgermeister Frank Meyer from Krefeld with us today to meet with all of you. I know it's a very busy time of year for everybody and especially for you, so I'm especially thankful that you took time out of your busy schedule to be with us. As I mentioned to the two of them before everybody joined, we had originally hoped that you all would be meeting with them in person in your respective cities, but unfortunately, the fourth wave of COVID in Germany, which is really rather large and troubling, is preventing that. And likewise, I think we're still concerned about the pandemic here. But we're pleased that at least we could still get everybody together virtually. So many thanks to Ms. Eiselt and Mr. Meyer for joining us. Welcome to you both. Ms. Eiselt moved to Charlotte in 1998. She successfully ran as a candidate for the Charlotte City Council in 2015. She's currently serving her third term on the City Council, serving at large, which means she represents the entire city as not representing a specific district. And she also serves as Mayor Pro Tem, which means she represents the city of Charlotte when the mayor is not present. Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt recently announced that this is actually going to be her last term on City Council, which is sad. I know she's been very active in government. So again, we're pleased that she's given that service to Charlotte, but sad to see that she will be leaving. Oberbürgermeister Meyer was born and raised in Krefeld and is in his second term as mayor of the city. He's engaged in the city government since 1999 as a city council member and also as deputy mayor. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he also was an exchange student at one point and was in Charlotte, and I know he's going to mention that a little bit more later on. But before I ask each of them to make some brief introductory remarks, I also wanted to really express my thanks to them on behalf of not only the students in Charlotte and Krefeld that are with us today, but all of the participants in the German American Sister Cities Youth Forum, because last year in October, the American Council on Germany had a conversation with both of them, which directly led to the creation of this project that you're all participating in. And during that conversation, my colleague asked them about youth in their communities and how important it was. And rather than summarize what each of them said, I'd actually like to play just a brief snippet, a brief Ausschnitt from that conversation to give you some background on what they said.
We have a very, very good working youth council, youngsters from schools that join together to be representatives of the young citizens for the whole city, and they have very, very good projects that they work on that has to deal with strengthen our democracy, our local democracy, working against racism, for an open-minded society. And I think these are the best values young people can work for. And I think these are international values that we share on both sides of the Atlantic, that we share in Charlotte and in Krefeld. And I think it's very important to bring these youngsters together so that they can cooperate and can be inspired by each other.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things to do is to talk to our youth organizations that reach out. And I always remind them that as a local government elected official, what we're doing today isn't really going to benefit my generation so much. We are growing a city that they're going to live with either the benefits or the consequences of. And so even though some of them aren't old enough to vote, and a lot of times they sort of say, well, I'm sorry, but I always say don't be, because even though you're not old enough to vote, your voice is really important, because we've got to look at the long term when we talk about racial equity, when we talk about infrastructure investment. Whatever we're doing is really for generations from now. We have a great organization here called Generation Nation that is made up of high school students from all over the school district. They get involved. They come to city council meetings, county commission meetings, school board meetings, and the students really go deep. And they've had a big impact. They let us know how they feel. They let us know what they want. They've gotten involved in the climate change issue. They've gotten involved in social justice. And I think it's fantastic. I think we're all better off if our young people feel that they have a voice in shaping the city that we need to become.
But again, I think based on those comments, we just got so excited that this was something we needed to engage, and we reached out to all of the organizations. And again, I just want to express my thanks to Generation Nation and to the Jugendrat for all of the support and collaboration, Matthias and Amy, for bringing the two groups together. So again, my apologies for that, but with that, maybe I will turn things over to the mayors to do some introductory remarks. During the conversations that we've had since September, the youth have focused on three topics: climate change and sustainability. The second was diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then sort of the broader topic of the importance of youth civic engagement. So I wondered if you could maybe give us some quick highlights, some particular developments from your two cities on these issues that you might bring to the table for our discussion today. And maybe I'll go to Oberbürgermeister Meyer first, since he's farthest away from me, at least sitting here in New York, and ask him to make the first comments.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. And yeah, it's really a pity that we couldn't hear the discussion of last year, but I think all the main topics will be in our discussion today too. So that's no bigger problem, I think. When you asked me to talk about the three main topics in 5 minutes, that is unimpossible. Only the discussion about climate change and what's all around this could take for hours or weeks. But let me tell you that we have a very, very engaged youth group in the city, the young people that are here, and that they are doing a really, really good job in the last years since the system was founded in Krefeld. When I was a teenager myself, our generation had a debate about let's the young people take more responsibility in local politics, and let us found the kind of youth council in Krefeld. And it took a lot of years since it was founded, and now we have it for, I'm not sure, Mr. Höps should know, I think 10 years, at least, maybe longer. And now it's, I don't know, the third or fourth generation of young people. And they do a lot of very, very good work, for example, against racism and fascism. They try to convince other young people to take part in elections. They help young people to understand the programs of the parties. They organize debates with the candidates for example, for my office or for people that want to become a member of the Bundestag, the German Parliament in Berlin, and so on. They take part in festivals for democracy, and on and on and on and on. But they also are engaged for that the city should do more against climate change, which is a very big topic for them, but for us too. The city of Krefeld and the city council has a plan to reduce the donation by our city, And I think we wouldn't be that far in our programs without the power and the pressure from the young people. And to me, as a politician, that is not easy in every single case. And there are hard debates from time to time, but they are all always fair in a very good democratic spirit. And I think that all the discussions with the young people make our politics better in every political topic. And so I think it's very good together with the professionals from the city's administration. We have a very good team in our youth department that I think they have fun in their work, and you can see it and you can feel it. And so it's a very good together. And my last and maybe the most important point is that young people are always very curious about other cultures, other nations, other forms of systems. And so you can feel that there is a very big interest in international topics. And this generation, you that take part in this discussion, you can feel day by day that the big problems of your generation are problems not only in the United States or in Charlotte or in Germany and Krefeld, but all over the world. When we talk about the pandemic doesn't stop at any border, and it doesn't stop at ethnics or nations. It goes cross borders, and it's a problem that we have all together and that we have to solve all together. And the same is the big problems were in environmental topic. And we have when we lose the nature, then we don't lose the nature in the United States or in Germany, but all over the world. So I think it's your job to cooperate, and I'm very happy that you're interested in cooperation, and I hope that city governments find a way to co-work better than we did it in the past. I mean, we let's say we're partners for now, I think 36 years, 35 or 36 years. Because of the pandemic situation, we were not able to meet in person in Charlotte as we wanted to do it in November. Now we hope to get the chance to come to Charlotte next year. And for me, I would be very proud and very interested in meeting young people from Charlotte when we have our visit there, so that I can meet you in person, not only by the screen. That would be really great, and maybe we can find a way to strengthen the cooperation of young people in both cities. This would be very, very good from my point of view.
Thank you, Meister Meyer. Your comment about the idea of learning that the issues don't just affect Charlotte or Krefeld or Germany or the United States, I think was one of our main goals with this project, to bring folks together to further recognize that issue. And so I'm glad you brought that out. And I think from my initial kind of feedback and watching of the conversations, I think that became very apparent to everybody in the project. So thank you. I'd like to now turn over to Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt for your comments and maybe build on a little bit what we heard from Oberbürgermeister Meyer.
Sure. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Oberbürgermeister Meyer, for your comments. I completely agree. The pandemic has shown how closely we all are connected. And I think with youth in particular, that's important because youth have a very important role to play. I may have mentioned this last time, I don't remember because I couldn't hear the video, but you know, so much of what we do as elected officials is for the future. It's for young people for the future. It's not for my generation. It's really, and that makes it hard because we have to do things that aren't terribly popular, but we have to do it keeping in mind what the city is going to be like 20 years from now. And then there's other things that just aren't popular. We recently, since we spoke last, the city because of the pandemic and our limitations with sanitation workers, we banned plastic bags for leaves, for yard waste. Charlotte has a 49% tree canopy, which is wonderful, but that's a lot of leaves. And so you couldn't even believe the number of people that were really mad that we took away their plastic bags. But, you can use a bin that you can get and empty it and reuse it, or these paper bags that are especially for yard waste. So, we are taking short-term steps with climate change in line with our Strategic Energy Action Plan, which I think I did mention last time, which is our pledge to become carbon neutral by 2030. But I think in particular, young people have a really important role to play in asking and demanding for these changes, because you all are the ones that it's going to impact the most. And I think you all are the ones that are of a different mindset, that you can live with those inconveniences, right? Sometimes of what my generation considers to be inconveniences, and they don't have all of their rights to certain things. And I think your generation frankly has more of a sense of communal, how important it is to live communally and live with each other and for each other. And I think I feel in our country, we've lost a little bit of that. And so with regards to our climate change initiatives, some of the things going on here in Charlotte, we had a really great week this week. We had Vice President Kamala Harris come to Charlotte and talk about the new infrastructure bill, which we're really hoping we will get some money from for our electric buses and our electric vehicles. And that's part of our Strategic Energy Action Plan, is converting our whole city fleet to electric. And we've started to do that. We have, I think, 6 buses out at the airport. But one of the challenges, and why we need public support and support from youth, is this: 30% of emissions are also created by car emissions, right? So there's also a great need to get cars off the road. And I chair our Transportation and Planning and Environmental Committee, and I'm pushing very hard that we increase our investment in public transit, because we know that plays into the climate factor and leads to more sustainability in transit here in Charlotte. So the difficulty is, and wave at me if I already talked about this, and I'll stop, but to buy an electric bus is about $1 million. To buy a hybrid or diesel is $500,000. We have a very underfunded bus system. It's not very efficient. The only people that ride it, frankly, have to ride the bus. And so it becomes, we need to invest about $40 million a year in operating costs, just to cut down our wait times, so that the average round trip in Charlotte on a bus goes from 3 hours to 1.5 hours. That would cost us $40 million a year, and then another $100 million in capital to buy the buses, to buy the charging stations. And so when the climate groups really push us to never buy another hybrid bus again, the question becomes, do you spend money on the electric buses when you can only have half the number? And then, or do you spend money on getting people off the roads and investing it in public transportation? So it's a lot of challenges. And I think that, again, young people have the opportunity to speak up and say, I don't want to have a car. I want to take the bus, but I need an app that tells me when the bus is going to be there. I need a real-time app. I need to be able to pay for it on my phone. I want to have internet on the bus. Everything that you expect of rail should be on buses. So you guys have a really great opportunity, because we know you're the future riders of public transportation. In Charlotte, Amy Farrell has done an amazing job with Generation Nation to promote to lift up the youth voice. We know that's our key organization. If you're not in Generation, maybe everybody here in Charlotte is on it, but great organization. I want to tell you guys about, I'm sorry, Germany, Krefeld, but I want to tell the Charlotte folks about an event today out at the Innovation Barn, which is our sustainability and innovation makerspace. And today from 1 to 4 is something called bottles to bale. And if you bring plastic bottles and they will grind it, they use that, they make all sorts of really cool stuff with the plastic. If you bring plastic bottles today between 1 and 4, you can get entered to win Panthers tickets or Hornets tickets. But the Innovation Barn is something that we developed 5 years ago. I was on the trip. We went to Europe to look at their sustainability endeavors with Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and Barcelona. And we brought some of those ideas back. And they're doing really cool stuff out there. You can go out there. 100 Gardens is located there, a hydroponic operation. They crush glass to make sand for playgrounds. Really cool stuff going on out there. So I won't talk too loud or too long. I'm sorry, Rob, but I think there's really some great opportunities here for our youth to get more actively engaged.
No, I thought that was great. And I think
I hope that Oberburgermeister Meyer will come to Charlotte. And even if I'm not serving at the time, I would love the opportunity to meet you and all of the young German people that can come with you. It's time. We want you to come here. So we got to keep this going.
We will definitely bring that up during our second hour when we're brainstorming, because we definitely want to keep this going. So as I said earlier, we really wanted this to be a discussion that the youth had an opportunity to talk with the mayors and ask their own questions. I have lots I can potentially ask, and I will ask those if none of you raise your hands, but I am going to turn to you now. I know some of you do like to ask a lot of questions, so I'm going to turn things over to the students and the participants. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and I will call on you and you can unmute and ask your question. Maybe I'll turn it over to you. Who wants to go first? Always has to be a first. Kumaran, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I want to say that the youth is a big part of the community, and many young people don't know how to participate or how to change things if they want to. And I want to ask, like, where can you people go and be and say what they want to change without so much paperwork? Because that's often the thing why youths don't want to change something or don't have the hope that they can change something.
And if maybe I can build on that and say, how do you get youth engaged who are not doing projects like this, who've already shown sort of the inclination to get engaged? There are obviously thousands more youth that are not being engaged. So maybe, Julie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So that's a great question. And I don't think it has to be about paperwork. That's the good news. You know, social media, for all its faults, is a great place to organize. When we had a climate change summit here last year with Greta Thunberg, the different high schools came out. I know one of our high schools, Myers Park High School, has a youth activist group for climate change. And, you know, those are starting at the school level. I don't think you need someone like her to come to have a rally. You know, you can do it anytime you want in front of Government Center. You just have to organize. And maybe you get a couple leaders at different schools that will help you pull people together, creating a private Facebook page to get these folks together to share ideas. A place to meet. Innovation Barn here in Charlotte would be a great place to meet. And I think it's really just about getting a grassroots organization of people that have like-minded interests, and define in as simple terms as possible, define what your mission is. Don't make it a long piece of paper. Make it 1 or 2 sentences on what you're trying to accomplish so people can easily understand that. We can't hear you, Rob.
All right, Oberbürgermeister Meyer, sorry.
For young people or the other way around, when we talk about taking part in local decisions, and that's what I can talk about. I mean, you know that, for example, you have the Jugendbeirat, which is a very strong instrument for young people. And I really like it because even those who are a little bit shy or not used in taking discussions with adults about their different issues and topics, they find an environment where they can speak frankly about what they're thinking and find others to cooperate and to bring their ideas together, and that they get support from people from the administration. I think this is very, very good, even for, or especially for the younger, for the younger interest peoples. I mean, in our Jugendbeirat now we have a lot of really young people of the age about 14, when I remember that correctly, isn't it? So I think that is very, very young, and you are the older ones, and you have to take them by their hand, and you have to help them. This is one element. The other is, for example, like you know, that I have my an hour every few weeks for young people to come to me personally in my office and just tell me what are their problems, and this is, from time to time, this is very, very small, or it looks like it was very, very small. But for those young people, it's very important that they come to my office and tell me about that they don't have enough time for their handball training, that there's not enough time in the training hall, that they want me to give them more hours in the hall, for example. This is a very, very small example, but to me it's important that they go out of my office and they know that they are heard, and that there is someone who is interested in it, and that they can come again when there is another problem. At the moment in my office, we are discussing about participation on a higher level for everybody. We have in Germany, you have to cooperate with citizens by law, for example, in big building projects, big planning projects. This is on a very high formal level. So it's the paperwork you talked about. And the standards are very high, and these standards make it uninteresting, especially for young people. So I have a group of younger employees of the city's administration that are talking and thinking about what can we do to be more attractive in participation overall. For example, yesterday I had this discussion with our board for the city's anniversary. In 2023, Krefeld will become 650 years old, and we will have a big party one year, and we are crystal clear that we want the citizens to take part in the planning and the doing of all these parties all that year long. And I hope that the younger Krefeld people will bring in their ideas too.
Thank you. Those are all great examples, and maybe we can even get the Charlotte participants over there for that big celebration too, or at least some of them. I also would just maybe ask
sorry, that's a really very important point, that we are thinking about ways to bring in our sister cities. And so the city government of Charlotte, the mayor, will get an invitation, of course, and we will offer other opportunities where people from our sister cities, if they want to, can take part in, and maybe that would be a very good stage to meet.
Indeed. So I'm going to bring that up in our second hour, but I also just wanted to make the quick suggestion to everybody that another way you can always have your voice heard is to write a letter to your mayor. I can't tell you how many times I have written letters to my mayor here in White Plains, New York, north of the city, and I almost always get a response either from him or from someone else in the administration addressing my issue. And so I think we too often think we can't say anything, you take the time to write that personal note, whether it's via email or an actual letter that goes in the mail, I'm guessing Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt is going to respond to you and Oberbürgermeister Frank Meyer is going to respond. So other questions? That was a great start. Mara, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question to Mrs. Eiselt, especially to, well, to what you just said and what Mr. Meyer just said. We have a youth council coming from the Krefelder Council. So it's a city project. It's a youth council coming from the city of Krefeld. And I was wondering, as far as I understood, you don't have it in Charlotte. I was wondering if you're interested in maybe creating some kind of space for youth to start a council as well.
So we do, but it's a quasi-private individual, and Amy's on the call, Generation Nation, it's called. And that is our youth council, because Charlotte we have city government and we have county government. So Generation Nation makes up not just the city of Charlotte, but the towns, the 6 or 7 towns around Charlotte as well. Our school system is countywide, so it's the whole school system is included. And we also have just city, in terms of the city, we have the Mayor's Youth Mentoring Corps, which is also very active. It's more in the summer where we work to get young people into apprenticeships and jobs for the summer. And Generation Nation is involved in that too. But our go-to organization would be Generation Nation.
Can I ask a quick clarification, Mara, or deepening of your question? When you say you have a council, is the council in Krefeld actually involved in political decision-making, i.e. voting on things together with the council, or is it more of an advisement? And that might even be a question for Oberbürgermeister Meyer. You're muted, Mara.
Yes, I know. I just lost my, I was out of the Zoom call. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to answer. Maybe Mr. Meyer can answer more clearly,
okay,
but I can tell
answer.
We don't have, well, first, we don't have the voting right, because that's really a lot of paperwork, which we talked about is kind of difficult for youth. But we are sitting in different councils. I don't know if you call it councils. In Germany, we call it Ausschuss. And we are trying to get in even more. But yeah, there's more to come, I guess. We're only sitting in the, in the youth council, I guess. I can't really translate it.
That's committees. You're
the committee.
Well.
Oh, yes, you're right. In the committee, but maybe Mr. Meyer can elaborate that more.
Oh, that was right to the point. In the past, we had a very, very complicated system. When we asked every school or every youth club to send delegates to the city's youth council, and these delegates had to elect a board of the youth council and so on, and that doesn't work very good in the past. So we decided to bring it to a more open system. We have a kickoff workshop where every young Krefelder is invited to take part in and to get information about what the Youth Council is doing. And all they together say, yes, I want to take part in it, they can do it. And they elect a board, and this board are the people that are my partners in discussions. So we have a meeting at least once a year, at least, a general meeting where we can talk about the main issues, but we meet from time to time in other circumstances. And as Mara said, the youth committee of the city's council works together with the youth council, and they take part in the meetings of the committee. And so in fact, it's more advising than to decide. Yeah, that's correct. This is because of general thinking about democracy, and it's that the city council is elected by the people of Krefeld, and in the different committees should be the same political
representation.
Yes, the same. Thank you. Representation, like it is in the city council. But to give you another example, in this pandemic COVID situation, we have I don't know exactly the English word, Krisenstab.
A crisis council or crisis.
Yeah, for like a situation board or something like that. And in Krefeld, this is with the police and the fire department and the physicians and so on, and people of the administration. And we meet twice a week, on Tuesday and on Friday. And I'm not sure, on Wednesday or on Thursday, we have a school meeting. And as far as I know, the youth council is, I don't know, every week, but in general, part of the discussions. And we had a discussion in Krefeld about the wearing masks in the school. And in our decision as city's board, that we want we want the young people to wear the masks in school. It was also discussed with the youth council. So it's, from my point of view, a quite strong advisory.
Thank you for the clarification. I wanted to ask, because I know some, before I turn to Brianna's question, I know that some of the Jugendrats, the youth councils in Germany, actually are elected. I believe in Stuttgart, in fact, if I remember correctly, they actually are elected. I could be getting one of my cities mixed up. So it's clear there are varying degrees, if you will, of engagement with that. So Brianna, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, so my question was, I guess it's like more so towards Charlotte. We have like a gentrification problem, which is like when the cost of like land goes up and people can like no longer afford to live there. And then, you know, you see like the upgrades in like the city, and then how you compare it to like an adjacent neighborhood that isn't like as well taken care of. What like solutions do like both mayors have, and then how can the youth be a part of the solutions?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's a great question for both of us, because I would love to hear what Oberbürgermeister Meyer, his response to that, because here in Charlotte, the biggest impediment we have, frankly, to stopping gentrification is twofold. On the one hand, what's really hard is that we want people to create wealth for themselves, and the best way to do that is through their home values. That's by and large where most people's wealth is in their home. But when you have a neighborhood that is gentrifying, what it usually means is it's going up in value, and you're pricing people out that have been there for a long time. The hard part for us beyond that dynamic is that by state law, we are prevented from doing anything that treats one neighborhood differently than another neighborhood. So we can't do tax abatement. We can't have special programs that to prevent gentrification that only apply to some neighborhoods or some people. They have to be open to everybody. And I feel like our hands are really tied, because it is a problem. And, you know, the most we can do right now is to try to create more inventory of affordable units for people to live in all parts of town. And we are doing that. We've really stepped it up. But we've still got tens of thousands of people that are rent burdened and mortgage burdened. And that's an issue. That's why I also really push on the public transportation piece of it, because public transportation is the second largest component of someone's disposable income. And in Charlotte, which is a very car-centric city, if we could get people to have more options for public transportation, that would save money, because it costs about $7,000 a year in North Carolina to own and operate an automobile. So locally, it's even more than that. And then you add on to that the time it takes sitting in traffic. There is a monetary value to that. And so I think if we focus on those two things together, what we've got to do is figure out how to make the cost of living in Charlotte more affordable for more people. The physical location is really a tough one because of our laws.
Thank you. And Oberbürgermeister Meyer, are you facing similar issues?
Gentrification is at the moment in Krefeld not such a big problem. It is a problem of the bigger metropole cities in Germany, for example, Berlin. But in our neighborhoods, the state's capital, Düsseldorf, has a very, very big problem with costs of housing. And let me say it like this: this is getting more and more difficult in Krefeld too. I have to explain it a little bit. Our region is very, 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 very close together. So North Rhine-Westphalia, where Krefeld it's one of the parts of Europe where the most people live on the smallest room. I hope you can understand what I mean. So Düsseldorf is quite in our neighborhood, and the big cities of the rural area in our direct neighborhood. So in Düsseldorf, people cannot buy, for example, a house for their family, because most people cannot afford it, because it's much too teuer.
Too expensive.
Too expensive, sorry. Much too expensive. So they start to buy ground and houses in Krefeld. And step by step, the costs are increasing here too. So the problem is not that bad that people are put out of their neighborhood because of public investment, but people cannot afford in the private sector to buy houses and so on. So we have a very light increasement of housing costs. At the moment, that is not such a big problem, but it could become a big problem in the closer future, because we don't want to build much more houses on the green fields. At the moment, about half the area of our city is, I need an English word once again, versiegelt.
Ooh. I always think I'm fluent in German, versiegelt.
But half the area of the city is with houses and streets and so on and on and on. And we have fields and woods and acres and so on in the other half.
They're confined. They're confined by borders such that you can't expand.
Yeah. Okay. And from my point of view, we shouldn't increase the building parts much more, because we want to breathe in our city. So you need the green parts of the city's area too. And that is the big problem. We cannot build new suburbs here and there and there and there, and have to find a way to build higher buildings. For German, from a German perspective, a house with 3 or 4 stages is a quite big building. And so, yeah, we have to see to find room for the people to live on a good standard. Next week, I think there will be the election of the new chancellor in Berlin. And there is a treaty of the political parties that will build the new government for Germany. And in this treaty, they say that they want to build 400,000 new apartments each year, and 1/4 of it with a public bought that the rent is a little bit cheaper, and that they try to get the market controlled against gentrification in the big cities.
We would define that 1/4 as affordable housing, low-cost affordable housing in a community. Thank you. More questions? So I guess I have a question if no one does. One of the topics that we focused on in some of our conversations was diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know it was a topic that came up in our conversation with both of you last year in October. And I guess I was curious, you know, has that topic continued from your perspective as mayors, as leading the cities, as something that's been a forefront of discussions in your communities? And what, in fact, has your cities undertaken to address these issues, perhaps more than they had been doing, you know, in the past, prior to the protests, prior to the murder of George Floyd and others that brought such attention to this issue? Maybe, again, I'll go with you first, Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt.
Sure. So we had, in 2016, we had a police shooting of a Black man, Keith Lamont Scott, and that set off a couple days of protests and violent protests that ended in the death of a protester. That really turned us on our head, frankly. We had most recently, there was a study done by an economist from Harvard named Raj Chetty, and it named Charlotte 50 out of 50, so at the bottom of big metropolitan cities for upward mobility. And so all of this was happening and coming together to make us realize that we were sort of, you know, we had to look ourselves in the mirror and be pretty honest about what was happening. And that didn't, you know, I think the turning point really that was that happening, and our mayor saying to the business community, because we're a very business focused city, that's primarily, we're a banking city, so that's sort of what we're known for. And she went to the private sector and said, you need to help us. And so you need to participate as well. And it's not okay to just say you're going to hire some young people that are people of color, whatnot. You need to put some of your own money into this and make some transformative changes. And just about 2 weeks ago, we announced the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative, which is raising $250 million to put into what we call corridors of opportunity, to put into education initiatives, to help save our historically Black, our HBCU, historically Black colleges and universities. We have one here in Charlotte named Johnson C. Smith University. And so that money, about 180 million of it is coming from the private sector. The rest is from the public sector. And that will go into loans for businesses owned by minorities and traditionally marginalized people. And so I do think we're finally stepping up as a community to not only acknowledge the sins of the past, if you will, but to work to break down those same barriers that have just gotten stronger over the years and have kept people out of the same opportunity that every one of us wants to enjoy. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know enough about initiatives with young people because I think it's probably happening at the school level. And the schools are under the county, they're not under the city. I'd love to see more of a voice of our young people on what we should do for racial equity and inclusion. But you know, again, at the city level, we came up with this program, Corridors of Opportunity. We chose 4 parts of town that did correlate to the highest crime rates, and we are intentionally investing in them. Better bus stops, lit bus stops, better sidewalks, more infrastructure, beautifying roads so that businesses want to be located there, and then lending them the money to be there and be successful. So that's probably the biggest thing that we've had going on is people having to put their money where their mouth is.
Thank you. And Oberbürgermeister Meyer and Annie, I see your hand up. We'll go to you next.
I think I don't know what the situation is like in Charlotte. So I heard what Ms. Eiselt said, but I think it's somehow a different situation we have in Germany and we have in Krefeld. But maybe there are some similar points. So I remember that we have had even in Krefeld, for example, Black Lives Matters protests too, and I think the Jugendbeirat was very involved in it. But sometimes I think in Germany and in Krefeld we enjoy to have a debate what's going wrong somewhere else, without talking about what is going wrong in our own backyard. So let me give you an example. A few weeks ago, we had the celebration of the 60th anniversary of the German-Turkish contract about workers from Turkey coming to Germany. And you might not know in Charlotte, but this is the main topic of migration to Germany. Workers coming from Southern Europe to Germany in the late 60s and in the 70s mainly. And today in Krefeld we have, I think, about a third of the population with a migrational background. And the Turkish community is the biggest. And started 60 years ago, and we had this anniversary. And to me, it was very important that we not talk only about all the positive things that happen, but that we also talk about what's not working very good at the moment. So it's still that people with a migrational background, even in Krefeld, have not so good opportunities in school and jobs. People with a foreign name or with Kopftuch, like Muslims, when you see that they are Muslims, they have problems getting an apartment, and so on and on. So we have a lot of things to do, and we still have to discuss in our society what is democratic, and we have to talk about anti-racism, and this is a very, very big topic for the city. We support our schools, for example, that they become schools against racism. We have some programs for it, and try to help them to work with the young people. And I hope that the next generation will be a little bit more relaxed, and maybe as you see here in this round, we have a lot of people that are Krefelders by their heart, and I don't care where their parents are from or their grandparents. They're from. These are the young people that are engaged for our city and for our community, and they are our community. And this should be slogan for the next years, that this is us, but it's not in every heart in our city, and this will be a lot of work in the next years. It's a lot to do with education, I think. So from my office, for example, our main project in cities investment is in the schools. We are investing tens of millions, more than 100 million euros in the schools, and we do it, for example, to help people that have not the best conditions at home, that they have good conditions in their school to learn. That it shouldn't depend on your parents' income and on the suburb you live in. If you can make a good career, it should depend on what you can do and what are your what the surrounding of the school is, and not of your private background. So I hope all this will help to come on a better level in the next years.
Thank you. Can I ask both of you, do you have maybe 5 more minutes if we go over a little bit? We're at 12 o'clock, because there's 2 more questions and I want to be sure we get those. Okay. looks like you're nodding your head. So Annie, I'll go to you, and then we'll go to you, Sydney.
So this one is more specific to Ms. Eiselt. I apologize because to my knowledge, this is more local problem, and I'm not sure if it really applies to Germany. But I know you referenced the Ross-Shetty study. I've actually found that. And when you spoke about infrastructure, do you have any, I know like the fundamental root of that problem is largely roads. For example, like Independence Boulevard was built to like break up communities, to like undo those harmful effects and sort of like reunite Charlotte. So we're more like one city rather than several subsections. Because I'm sure you're aware, like a lot of the infrastructure was largely built up to say destroy predominantly Black communities that had built up financial success.
Yeah. So what Annie's talking about, and actually 277 is a great example. If you have the city right here in the middle, back in the 50s, maybe they built a freeway, the shape of a U, that isolated the middle of downtown Charlotte. They moved out all the Black businesses. The area was called the Brooklyn neighborhood. They moved all of the Black residents out of uptown Charlotte to clear way for development. And it's a shameful mark on our history. There's always a lot of talk about people tearing down 277. I don't think that's going to happen. And honestly, Annie, to your point, it's investing in infrastructure on the other sides of 277 that are going to reverse the damage that was done. I'm not sure you can always totally reverse it, but for example, we are in the planning phases for our second light rail line called the Silver Line. And that's an east-west line that would actually traverse 3 counties. Fully built, it would be the longest light rail line in the country. The uptown stop, there's been a lot of controversy about this because it does not intersect our existing line called the Blue Line. It would be a block and a half over on right by 277 to allow for that neighborhood that got carved out of 277 to develop. And so it's intentionally putting infrastructure in neighborhoods that have been cut out of opportunity, right? So, you know, and that's a double-edged sword because we've seen that happen in West Charlotte. The light rail will also go through West Charlotte, but then you worry about rising property values. When you do that, yes, it becomes a more attractive place and you get more grocery stores and you get more retail and restaurants, everything that everybody wants to have access to. But that's because property values start to rise. And then it comes back again to how do you prevent those neighborhoods from becoming gentrified and pushing people out? There were beautiful neighborhoods like Washington Heights that got built when people were moved out of Brooklyn Village. And now those are beautiful tree-lined streets. Those are houses from the 50s and 60s. And our big fear is that we're going to ruin those neighborhoods next through gentrification and by putting in a lot of infrastructure that improves the property value. So it's a hard dilemma to solve.
Thank you. So Sydney.
Hi, yeah. So my question relates back a little bit to what you said earlier about getting feedback from the youth perspective. And so I was just wondering, how are you making sure you get a diverse group of individuals to provide you with that feedback?
That's to both mayors, I would assume.
I'll just say quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Mayor Meyer. But in Charlotte, again, it comes through our school system in Generation Nation. In our, I would say that starts at that level because we do have a pretty diverse student base. From what I've seen of the Generation Nation group meetings, it is fairly diverse. I do feel like when youth do speak up, I do see diversity in that. And frankly, I think sometimes the kids at schools that are deemed higher income don't get engaged. And adults do that too. They only get engaged when something is wrong. And I think that's really a pity. Sometimes I see students that are in much more real world situations are the ones that get more engaged. And I applaud those students for that. So it does have to start at the school level.
Oberbürgermeister Meyer.
I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, so maybe you can help me.
Ich kann das auf Deutsch machen. Was machen Sie absichtlich, um sicher zu sein, dass Sie eine Vielfalt von Meinungen kriegen? Dass Sie wirklich nicht nur die gleiche Meinung unter Jugendlichen, sondern eine Vielfalt und Diversität von Meinungen kriegen, sei das ethnisch, alles.
There are different groups of younger people I'm in contact to. So, for example, it's the Jugendbeirat, but I'm also in contact with the younger people of my political party. In Germany, we have every political party has more or less big youth groups, but youth there is up to 35, so it's not your generation, but there are also people of your generation taking part in there. So I have meetings with them regularly. Also, we're planning this in the pandemic situation. It's a little bit problematic, but there we are having a meeting with young workers, people that are engaged in their companies as representatives of the younger workers, or I have meetings with the young students from or the students representatives from our university and so on. So I have different groups I talk to, and this is the easiest way for me to get different impressions. And I think most of the groups I'm in contact in are diverse. So there are people from I think every part of our city. The only group that is not represented are the people that are the really, really poor people, because a lot of them are fed up with our system. So they learned in their life, and the kids learned in the life of their parents, in their own life, that that no one is interested in their opinion, and maybe they think that no one cares about their life at all. And these people are very hard to get in a discussion. This is really, really hard, but it's a special problem, and should keep on working on it.
Thank you. I think one of the things that, if I recall correctly, came up in one of our conversations, and the American Council on Germany actually also has a transatlantic working group that's working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the points that often is brought up is that you have to be very intentional when you're working on these issues, especially if you're leaders, to figure out, as the question just implied, how are you ensuring that you're reaching out to these groups and not expecting them to reach out to you, but that you have to make the effort and make the policies to reach out to them. And it sounds like that is certainly happening in both of the cities. Well, fortunately, we're at the end of our hour, and we've in fact gone over our hour. So I again want to thank both of you, Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt and Oberbürgermeister Meyer, for taking the time to meet with us today. I thought this was a great conversation. I think we certainly could have continued for a longer period of time. I know, and I'm very hopeful that as we continue our conversation today, that we are going to come to the conclusion that we want to continue these conversations, and hope that when either of you go to the other country and the other city, that there'll be an opportunity to meet with the youth. Before I let you go, though, I would love if I could do a screenshot and kind of ask everybody to smile and wave. And I'm going to take a quick few shots of the screen. So if everybody could smile and wave right now, that'd be great. Perfect. So again, thank you both for taking the time today. I wish you both a wonderful afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt and Oberbürgermeister Meyer. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you again.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, and see you in Charlotte.